One thing we've achieved by 2020 is that I think most people across the world know what ramen is. Jusu Itami's Tampopo from 1985 helped popularize the dish outside of Japan and Asia. Then, Sofia Coppola's Lost in Translation in 2003 helped fuel more interest into Japan and made Japanese whiskey cool. Fast forward to 2020, Bong Joon-ho's Parasite added his Korean twist, giving us Ramdon. It seems like we're almost progressing. But 2020 is also the year where issues around racism and xenophobia bubble to the surface. So I think it's time for us to take another serious look at what ideas are presented to us in media and in film as much as what ideas are not presented. Take a moment and think about why certain films get made and released. Now think about why certain foreign films get released in your country, what gets picked up and what doesn't. And it's not wholly about the quality of the film. Sofia Coppola's Lost in Translation is one popular American film that is lifted up by the American film industry. The film is Sofia Coppola's perspective of Tokyo, and one that doesn't particularly engage meaningfully with the local culture, and even perpetuates harmful ideas about understanding a foreign country. Despite Sofia Coppola's insistence that Lost in Translation is her love letter to Tokyo, the film has been accused of Orientalism, and the criticism is echoed by Japanese viewers too. The Japanese distributor even opted for a delayed opening at a single Tokyo movie theater without doing much promotion. Wait up! Teacher, what is Orientalism? Orientalism is a concept written by Edward Said in 1978 to describe the general patronizing Western attitude towards Middle Eastern, Asian, and North African societies. In Orientalism, the Western society is developed, rational, ordered, mobile, and superior, while the Eastern society is backward, exotic, chaotic, static, and inferior, a society that needs to be dominated. But it's hard to talk about the crimes of Orientalism and Lost in Translation without a comparison movie. So let me introduce Ramen Girl, a Brittany Murphy movie from 2008, 5 years after Lost in Translation came out, that I think surprisingly engages with Japan and the Japanese really well. I know, this movie with this poster. Both films start with American characters who go to Tokyo for some obligation. In Lost in Translation, Bill Murray's character Bob Harris goes to do a commercial for Suntory, a Japanese whiskey brand. Scarlett Johansson's Charlotte is there with her photographer husband, but is largely left alone. Like Charlotte, Brittany Murphy's Abby goes to Tokyo to be with her boyfriend, but the similarities end here as each film takes on two very different American approaches towards exploring a foreign culture, resulting in two very different depictions of Tokyo and of Japanese people. From the opening scene of Lost in Translation, Tokyo is immediately introduced with a sense of otherness from the window of Bob's car. Coppola uses a handheld shaky camera to portray Tokyo as if the city is abnormal and chaotic, while Bob is shot on a steady camera as if he is a normal and rational one. This divide between Bob the American and the otherness of Japan continues at the hotel, which by the way is a Park Hyatt. With an international hotel brand like Park Hyatt, one would assume that their core clientele are travelers. However, Coppola oddly chooses to depict the Park Hyatt in Tokyo to be more Japanese, which is smaller or lower? John Morford, the interior designer of Tokyo's Park Hyatt, has been quoted to dislike the film because of the inaccurate depictions of the hotel. So you gotta wonder, if Morford is offended by this inaccuracy, how about the rest of Tokyo? And not every country has a box office power like China to be able to control the narrative of their own country in American movies.
I need a raise. I want a raise.
Yes, I'm sure whatever you want.
You can see more of the us versus the other sentiment through the many scenes of Charlotte looking out the window at the mysterious, cool-toned Tokyo from the safe space of her hotel room. It's as if the windows are a mental barrier that is never shattered, as both Bob and Charlotte are comfortably willing to stay within the boundaries of their perceived ideas of Tokyo. On the contrary, Abby is in the midst of Tokyo for the entire film. She lives in an apartment and even air dries her clothes like most Japanese people, showing her willingness to assimilate with the local culture. When Abby tastes ramen for the first time at the neighborhood ramen shop, the warmth she feels inspires her to quit her job at the Japanese law firm and embark on Chef Mizumi's training to make a ramen chef out of Abby. I understand that Lost in Translation is a film about the isolation and the loneliness that one feels in a new surrounding, but Coppola resorts to degrading the Japanese in order to deliver this emotional state. Like this joke about the Japanese eating exotic food.
They love black toe over in this country.
And what exactly is she trying to say here? In Ramen Girl, the humor is directed instead at the cultural ignorance of Abby. And the frustration both sides feel as neither fully understand each other.
5時。
いや、お前パッチンじゃねえんだよ。朝の5時にこいつってんだよ、俺が。
つまらん。
分かったのか分かったか
Overall, the humor is
外
harmless.
人ってお前長ネギ食うのか、これ。ほうれん草食うだろうな。これポパイだからよ。
The Japanese language is never compromised, whereas in Lost in Translation, the Japanese characters hardly speak and end up becoming visual stereotypes. And even in the scene where the most Japanese is spoken, Coppola chooses not to subtitle their dialogue. So, although Coppola may have succeeded in creating an atmosphere of alienation, she also succeeded in dehumanizing another population. On the contrary, the Japanese people in Ramen Girl are real human beings. Each have developed backstories, aspirations, and are a key part of the story. There is a mom-and-pop ramen shop owner whose estranged son is uninterested in ramen making but is fascinated by French cuisine. The couple represent the older and more traditional generation who are nonetheless open-minded and welcome foreigners. They also worked hard to afford their son the freedom to pursue his own dreams. On the flip side, there are those who prefer to keep their own culture to themselves. So, for Chef Mazumi to pass on to a foreigner a dish that holds cultural significance to Japan, the film captures how Japan sees itself today and how they want the rest of the world to recognize them by. Then there is Toshi, who represents the modern, educated, bilingual, and well-traveled generation. It's important to note that the film gives this character extra layers.
Theater kids always made fun of me because my grandparents came from Korea.
Showing that there are many intricacies and diversities in Japan when most foreign audiences see Japan as one singular entity. And with America's long history of emasculating East Asian men in media, dating back to the mid-1800s as seen in the Yellow Pearl propaganda, which was used to discourage interracial marriages between Asian male immigrant workers and white women, I found it refreshing to see Toshi as Abby's new love interest. Toshi doesn't display any of the Asian male stereotypes commonly seen in American films and is instead a sweetheart. He's attentive, charming, supportive,
One day I'm sure I'll taste Abby's ramen.
and most importantly, has a voice. Through him, we get to know more about the young Japanese generation and their values in life and work, some of which are similar to American values and others different.
Say it's because you're Japanese, because that's just an excuse.
I am Japanese. Why do Americans think everybody should be like them?
And it's this rejection and challenge against a default American perspective that is never given to the Japanese characters in Lost in Translation.
The band wasn't tough at all, and the label guys just kept saying more lock and low, but it's just so much better if they're just skinny and nerdy like they came in, you know?
Not only does this scene perpetuate Asian male stereotypes of being scrawny and nerdy, but we also only hear the American side of the situation, a perspective that sounds self-righteous and paternalizing. The only problematic line that I found in Ramen Girl is this.
Whose side do you think he plays on?
It's hard to tell, he's Japanese. So,
Do you think it is an unfair jab at gayness and at Asian men? Or does it also challenge the Western idea of masculinity as the normative form? To me, the most ridiculous thing about Lost in Translation is that it won the Best Original Screenplay at the Oscars that year, despite having multiple scenes of dialogue where Coppola chooses to draw humor at the Japanese mixing up R's with L's.
Lip them? What?
Lip them like this. Lip them.
Rip them?
You know Rat Pack? Rat Pack? Roger Moore?
Roger Moore?
Yeah.
If the American actors were to speak Japanese, there would be some embarrassment too. And would the Academy ever take back Coppola's Oscar? Probably not, because Coppola is also one of the very few prominent female voices in Hollywood. And you know, who has time to reprint all the DVD and Blu-ray covers around the world? I'm also convinced that this portrayal of a Japanese sex worker and the general over-sexualization of Asian women in Western media
Every time I see a woman with ornaments in her hair, I'll think of Okichi with the yellow combs. Every time I hear the rustle of silk,
some of which are also committed by Asian filmmakers, as in Fast and Furious Tokyo Drift, are why we get posters like this, with Brittany Murphy being a sexy Japanese kimono-wearing woman and naked in a huge ramen bowl. It seems like the marketing team is confused about how to market Ramen Girl to the general American audience who have a limited understanding of Japanese culture. Let's compare it to the Japanese poster. It's not the best poster, but it's certainly better. As we journey through Tokyo with Bob and Scarlett, Coppola seems to give an opinion on what is the cool and exotic Japan, the ancient culture, the traditions, and what is the uncool and weird Japan. What Japan is today. Coppola points fingers at how the Japanese misunderstand American culture and hold on to old American ideas.
Roger Moore?
Yeah.
I always think of Sean Connery. Seriously.
But she doesn't point the finger back at herself or at her characters. Her critical look at modern and technologically advanced Japan fits the Orientalist characteristics of the West, wanting to believe that the East is backwards and static. This idea of thinking may come from believing from a young age that the US is a leader of the world, so any other reality is hard to accept. Ramen Girl, on the other hand, is aware of its own Americanness.
Sorry.
Just like how Chef Mizumi asked Abby to first clean and let go of her past baggage before she begins learning ramen, the film screenwriter Becca Topol asks us to clean our own preconceived ideas before engaging with a foreign culture. Topol drew from her own personal experiences of living in Japan, and by collaborating with Japanese creatives on screen and off screen, and of course Brittany Murphy's willingness to take on the comedic shots,
Yeah. I'm here.
they created something unique in American cinema, something that challenged the American norm. Tsutomu Yamazaki, who played Goro in Tampopo, even makes a cameo in the film. Putting aside both of these films, the idea of a modern and tech-savvy Asia is still rarely positively depicted in American films today. Current-day Asian cities are either places where danger and craziness occurs, or are used as a backdrop of some dystopian future. In Her, made in 2013, Spike Jonze used a current-day Shanghai with almost no visual effects to depict a futuristic LA in 2025. It seems as if Western filmmakers like the Asian city aesthetic, but find it hard to show contemporary Asia as already advanced and safe. So, how do we combat all this? Well, first off, Western filmmakers need to be more mindful about what they show. And secondly, I think we need to support the Asian filmmakers who are already doing amazing work in their respective countries or about the Asian experience in the West. The challenge is getting those films to be part of mainstream American culture, like the Oscars, which is really the only institution that can generate interest from general moviegoers from all over the world to watch films that are unconventional. So, as we step into a new decade, I hope for more efforts by the film industry and moviegoers to challenge what we see on screens. Otherwise, our younger generation of artists might end up repeating misunderstandings from over a decade ago. But what do you think about this issue? Does the story of Lost in Translation justify Sofia Coppola's depiction, or could they have taken a page out of Ramen Girl? And don't forget to subscribe, share the video, and I'll see you in 2021.